All right. So, first of all, Happy New Year, everybody. It's the first video of 2019. I got bored, figured I'd get on here, and I found something. As you guys might know, I disagree with a lot of the things that Colin Cowherd says, and I agree with some of the things that he says. I am a nobody. I don't make money doing this. I do this for myself, my friends, whoever wants to tune in. This guy, this is his life. This is what he does. And some of his predictions, let's just be honest, some of the stuff that he says, well, Ray Charles could have said something better. And if I was ever lucky enough for him to watch this, he could take all the shots he wants. It wouldn't matter to me. But, so here's the gist of this today. So what you're going to hear is the video that he uploaded. And I'm going to stop it at certain points, and I'm going to give my opinion on things. Because he said some things that just... Okay. I mean it. And then afterwards, I'm going to go over a few stats, and we're going to talk about why I feel that way. So here we go.
We call it the three-word game. We can describe every NFL game over the last week in 3 words. Here we go. Jets, Patriots, AFC's worst nightmare. Patriots have appeared in the last 7 AFC championship games. They get a bye. 9th straight year with a bye. They're rested. They're in Foxborough, and they appear to be healthy. Now, I don't think they're as dynamic offensively. Edelman's past his prime. This is Gronk's last year. He doesn't run the same. But their offensive line, they rebuilt it. It's fixed. Belichick is a great coach. Brady doesn't lose at home. And there is a chance with an upset or two, they could get a warm weather Charger team or a warm weather Houston team or a kind of a rebuilding Indianapolis team at home. Watch out, AFC. Dolphins, Bills. Did not watch. Yeah, Bills crushed him. I had better things to...
Sorry, it wasn't pause. It's supposed to. So going back to the Patriots thing, there's a lot of that I agree with. But as goes for upsets, dude, I'm sorry. The damn Chargers are not going in to New England and beating New England. It's not going to happen. The Chargers went to Baltimore and got rolled, and they have to go to Baltimore again. Now, I do think Baltimore has the perfect scheme for the Chargers. I think that's one of the reasons why they lost. It'll be a game, but I can tell you right now, there is no way, there is no way Tom Brady is going to lose at home in the playoffs to Phillip Rivers and the Chargers. No way. Maybe on the road, if he played crappy enough, maybe on the road. Look, I'm just going to be completely honest about it. They hyped up Joey Bosa to come back, all this other bullshit. Excuse me. I'm sick again. Joey Bosa has got a few sacks here and there. He has not made that big of an impact. Derwin James has made the impact on that defense. They are not going to get... The only way to beat Tom Brady is get in the backfield. That is the only way. That is the only way to beat Tom Brady because he can't move. The Chargers are not going to get in the backfield on Tom Brady. They're not going to do it. Thus far, they are not winning that game, especially in Foxborough. The Patriots are 8-0 this year at home. What do you think they're going to do in the playoffs? Could I see the Ravens going in there and giving them a hard time, possibly beating them? Oh, yeah. Their defense is vicious, man. Their defense is so damn quick, they were getting after Patrick. They were chasing Patrick down. If they're that quick to get in there, they're quick enough to go after Tom. Houston, I could see them doing it. It'd be a close one. They'd have to pull one out. Their defense would have to step up. But I could see it being a possibility. If Kansas City gets beat, New England's in there, man. That's all there is to say about it. New England playing at home and playing on the road is night and day this year. Anyways, moving on, he just went to the Jets and the Bills, or the Jets and the Dolphins, whatever, the Bills and the Dolphins. Yeah, I didn't watch that either. Moving on. Oh, okay. Fine, you want to do that.
That was awful. Bears and Vikings, classic Kirk Cousins. Come on, season low 132 yards. He's now, what, like 5-24 against winning quarterbacks? Again, you can't even overpay the great quarterbacks. If you're paying Kirk Cousins $30 million a year, it's over. It's over. You're going to be limited. They have two dynamic wide receivers. They have an excellent tight end in Kyle Rudolph. Delvin Cook, they have a very good young running back. Now, their offensive line is not great. But I got news for you. Deshaun Watson's got a worse offensive line, and he's in the playoffs. Yep. This roster, way too good to be watching the postseason on television.
I completely agree with everything you said there. And the reason I'm doing this video is so everybody knows I'm not just taking shots at Colin Cowherd because he said something bad about the Chiefs, which he rarely ever did. And it's not because I hate the guy. I don't hate Colin Cowherd. I'm just saying there's a lot of things I disagreed with him on, and I ended up being right, which everybody's going to get that. But right here, I completely agree with him. The biggest mistake the Vikings ever made was going out and getting Kirk Cousins and thinking he was going to be something great. Kirk Cousins, yeah, he looks good on paper statistically, but he's a consistent 8-8 football player with the Redskins. Now, I could see why they would try this trial in Minnesota because he had so many weapons. Which he does. He has a ton of weapons. Latavius Murray in the backfield, all the guys he named off, Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs. They're loaded. And they got a decent defense too. They weren't that great this year, but that's because their offense put so much pressure on them. A really bad offense can put a lot of pressure on a good defense. It really can, because they're always on the field and they're always tired. On top of that, you had Case Keenum in there. He finally fit a system. He went 12-4. Why? Why get rid of him? Why screw that? That's like the Raiders when they got rid of Bill Musgrave in 2016 because he couldn't win a playoff game with Connor Cook, who's a backup. That was the best offense in the league that year by far. As much as I hate the Oakland Raiders. Okay, well, I can't actually say that. I was going to say the vertical offense really started with them. But honestly, I would say it started with Peyton Manning and then it transferred over to the Raiders. And then now everybody does it. So that I completely agree with. Absolutely.
Eagles, Redskins, fools me twice. I don't even understand it. Nick Foles is 9-2 in his last 11 starts for the Eagles. And to be honest with you, I think one of those losses was sort of a mail-in game last year in Week 17 where they rested a bunch of their starters. He tied the NFL record for 25 consecutive completions. He appears to be incredibly coachable. Watch out for Philadelphia. Watch out. This roster is outside of the secondary is really, really good. And it's experienced, Chicago. Get your seatbelt on. I think Philadelphia can upset Chicago this Saturday.
This I agree with. Philadelphia has experience in the playoffs. All those guys are back besides Jay Ajayi. Look, let's just be honest. Nick Foles plays out of his mind in the playoffs. Out of his mind. He played better than Tom Brady last year in the playoffs. That is rough. That's rough. He was scoring tons of points. So here's what I think. I agree with what he said. Also, last year, they had home field advantage. That makes a difference in the playoffs. It makes a big difference. And just take New England, for example. If it's a big difference for New England, it's a big difference for anybody. Unless the Bears' defense plays exceptionally well, yeah, I think Nick Foles will outscore him. I do. I think he'll outduel Mitch Trubisky, and that'll be the end of that. That's my opinion.
Raiders, Chiefs, regular season champs. Kansas City's the AFC's number 1 seed, 12-4, the media darlings of the NFL. Listen, it's a great NFL franchise. Andy Reid, and I love him, is a great coach. Patrick Mahomes is flashy and Brett Favre-like and fun. But Kansas City has not won a playoff game since 1994 in Joe Montana. Watch out.
Wrong. Wait, hold on. Let me go back and listen to what he said so I know I heard it right.
But Kansas City has not won a playoff game since 1994.
Wrong. We beat the Texans back in 2013, 30-0. It was at Houston. We have not won a home playoff game since 1994. That is correct.
Or in Joe Montana.
Get your stats right.
Out. Pressure. There's a little Red Sox feel to this team. Like before they actually broke through, had the players for years, couldn't quite make the play.
So notice what he said there. Breakthrough. To call us regular season champions, AFC, what do you say? AFC regular season champions. Look, man, everything's got to come to an end at one point, you know. Let's look back on those playoff games. What has always been our problem in Kansas City playing at Arrowhead? The one year we did have a quarterback, Trent Green, we got out-dueled by Peyton Manning because he had the ball for the last drive of the game, and he went down and scored 38-31. That was back in 2003. Would have been 2004 playoff-wise. The rest of the time we had Elvis Gerback, who was a dud, went to Baltimore, had a stud defense, went to Baltimore, had a stud defense, won a Super Bowl. Steve Bono, one-hit wonder. Matt Castle couldn't generate anything against the Ravens. Alex Smith. Well, the defense held Pittsburgh to field goals the entire time. Alex Smith got in the end zone twice. He got in the end zone on the very first drive of the game. Dud after that. Didn't do shit. I knew for a fact when we started moving the ball, and he had that ball knocked out of his hand, and Ryan Shazier picked it off on a tip. I knew right then and there he wasn't going to do anything for the rest of the game, and he didn't. He kind of kept the magic alive by going down on the last drive of the game, but we got called for a holding. That's how that game ended. Tennessee last year, 21 points in the first half, come out the second half, gets about halfway down the field. Travis Kelce suffers a concussion. He gets 3 first downs the entire second half, and 2 of those were on that drive. We've had terrible quarterbacks. And that great defense slowly got worn down in those games. Slowly got worn down. Yeah, there was some pretty asinine calls, and there were calls that were controversial, but you can't really include those because they're controversial. But there was calls that definitely got blown. And Triplett even admitted it, and he retired after that. But besides that, they can't move the ball. They can't do anything. They come out in the second half a complete dud. That's gone. That part is over. We got an offense now. If this defense, which plays a lot better at home than they do on the road, if this defense can just come up with a few stops, this team can win a football game. And notice what he said about the Red Sox. They had a ton of talent until they finally broke through. That's the point. You know what? The Raiders have been shit for years. Eventually, they're going to be good again. Eventually, they're going to pull their shit together. Eventually, Mark Davis is going to die, and somebody else that has a brain is going to take over the Raiders. The Cleveland Browns, they were crappy for years. They put Baker Mayfield in. They come out, 7-8-1? They're going to be a good football team next year. They really are. I absolutely believe that. They will be a decent football team next year. 10-6 at the minimum. All these curses have to come to an end eventually. That's my point. Do I think that Patrick Mahomes could possibly start a dynasty like Pittsburgh or, like Manning in Denver, or like, I won't go as far as Tom Brady yet because I haven't seen him in a second year. And I'm not saying I'm comparing him to Tom Brady. I'm saying Patriot-wise. Are we going to have a dynasty like them? I can't say all that. but it starts with winning a playoff. If they can win a playoff game and at least get to the AFC Championship, that's a logical progression. If they make it further next year, yeah, I think we're in for a dynasty. I really do. I think we finally broke through. Like last night I got into a conversation with a Raiders fan on a Raider channel. My comment got more likes on a Raider channel than the Raiders did wins. And I'm a nobody. It was more comments than I have subscribers. And he said, well, it's a joke that you always get to the first round and lose. Well, shit, if Kansas City's a joke for getting to the first round and losing, what does that make your team? Since they're the worst team in the league. Well, I guess technically not now. They got a 4th win. But really, what does that make your team? All you fans that want to bullshit around with me on that, go ahead, ask yourself that question. If you guys didn't even make the playoffs, and Kansas City's in the playoffs and losing the first round that many years in a row, but we're actually getting there and you're not, what does that make you? What does that make you? And technically, if you want to be technical, every team that doesn't make it to the Super Bowl is a failed season. Even the team that loses in the Super Bowl, it's a failed season. You didn't win your championship. Moving on.
Chargers, Broncos, mile high low. Since 72, Vance Joseph has the Broncos' worst winning percentage. I will say this. I grew up loving John Elway, but it looks like he missed on a coach, and he missed on a quarterback, and some of this is on Elway, who for years and years, Denver kind of lived in the ghost of John Elway. Now he's chasing himself. He's trying to find the next John Elway. And they've got an aging roster. Now they do have 2 unbelievable pass rushers in Bradley Chubb and Von Miller. That's the core of your team, and that's a good core.
Not Chubb, but Miller.
Some of this is on John Elway. We can blame everybody else, and I love John, but in this league, if you get the quarterback and the coach right, you win. If you whiff on the coach and the quarterback, you don't, and that's where Denver's at.
Correct. I agree with that. Now, let me reiterate something. Case Keenum, do I think he's the problem in Denver? No, I don't. Look, Case Keenum has fit horribly in other AFC conference teams. Houston, terrible there. He went to some other teams and did not fit at all. He went to Minnesota. He fit really well. Denver has kind of the same scheme as Minnesota does. He fits well in Denver. He's got a really good running back in Phillip Lindsay. I think they're going to start getting good again. He's right, they're getting old. Von Miller's getting old. The defense was shattered this year. He didn't really have much of a defense to work with. I don't think Case Keenum is a problem. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he finally pulled himself together and he found a system that worked. Obviously not near as good as he did in Minnesota because he was loaded in Minnesota. Right now he just has Phillip Lindsay. He's got Bradley Chubb on the other end and Von Miller, but Von Miller's getting old. Defense needs work. But the owner, I completely agree with that. Oakland, back in 2016, Oakland had it made. They had the right coaches. They had the right coaching scheme. I think Del Rio was a good fit there. He had guts. He wanted to win. But what happened? They get rid of their offensive coordinator. Offense goes to shit. They fire Del Rio, and they pay this guy $100 million, who, by the way, now has an overall record below 500. He was just above 500 coming into this season. Oakland screwed themselves, man. And any Raiders fan will tell you that. They did. They had it made. They had a great football team. Latavius Murray in the backfield, all their weapons, people, all the players wanted to play there. The fan base was good. It still is, but it's not as big as it used to be, obviously. But you get the gist. The owners screwed them. Mark Davis screwed up that whole football team. They were probably going to be good for about probably the next 8 to 10 years, unless Carr fell apart. Anyways.
Cardinals, Seahawks, dangerous 5 seed. Seattle's won 6-7. They got a superstar quarterback, superstar defensive player in Bobby Wagner. Pete Carroll's always been really good with young rosters. Now, some veterans get tired of, Pete's kumbaya style, and it's kind of a lot of the speeches and a lot of the same stuff. But if you look at Pete's history, young teams, young coachable guys, Pete lines them up. They got a star on both sides of the ball, and the best fourth quarter quarterback in the NFL. You're looking at him, folks. That's him, not Tom Brady. That is the best fourth quarter playmaking quarterback in the NFL, and he'll be facing a Dallas defense, a real challenge.
I agree with that. Here's the thing about Dallas's defense: they're fast, and that's what the Seahawks have problems with. Are guys that are just as speedy as their offense. So the Seahawks played Dallas earlier this year in Seattle, and they beat them by, I can't remember the exact score, but I know it wasn't significant, but they beat them by a good chunk. I think it was 10 or 17. But of course, it's in Dallas now, so it's different. Not like it is playing in Seattle. Besides the fact he was completely crapping on this team halfway through the season because they were playing bad. I agree with him. I think Seattle's playing really good. They beat some really tough teams down the stretch to get into the playoffs. They're dangerous. They're a force. And this team, when they get into the playoffs, they're good. They are really good. Minus the fact that the Vikings choked against them one year. Pete Carroll's really good in the playoffs.
Browns Ravens. Lamar's the story. Come on, he's 6-1. We're talking about Darnold and Baker and Josh Allen. Lamar Jackson's 6-1. Hasn't thrown an interception in December. I saw him live and I watched him yesterday. He is in complete control. It's heavily. It looks like a 1988 college offense, but I got to be honest with you. They run it really well, and they run downhill. They can kick field goals. They play great defense. They're great at home. I mean, would you be shocked if I said Lamar Jackson meets, whoever, Tom Brady in the AFC Championship? I wouldn't. Now, again, like the Chicago Bears, I think they're ceiling offensively. They're not built to play from behind. But yesterday it was all Baker Mayfield talk. Lamar's the story. 49.
There's a lot I agree with here, and there's a lot I disagree with. Okay. Lamar is the show. This is something different that people hadn't seen this season, a team that can run that well. Lamar's a big guy, but he got banged up against Kansas City. He kind of got hurt. I'm going to touch on something, okay? When he said Patrick Mahomes was 0-4 against, big playoff teams. Okay, number one, he only lost to 3 playoff teams at that time until they lost to Seattle. Patrick Mahomes was clearly not the problem. The one game I could see that he really screwed up was probably the Rams. And that was because he got hit in his throwing arm and it lollipopped up in the air and it got picked off. If he had not got hit in his arm, which, by the way, that Rams guy made a great play, the guy was wide open down the sideline. We'd be singing a totally different tune. How many guys start in their first year and go to Foxborough and lose by 3 in the middle of the season when the Patriots are hot as hell? Exactly. And make that many mistakes and still come within 3. His mistakes, he was trying to win. He was trying to force the ball downfield. He learned from it. All those games he played significantly well. He's the reason they stayed in the game. The defense is the one that failed to stop these guys. But here's the catch. He doesn't want to mention that one loss that Lamar Jackson has. Kansas City. It was at Arrowhead, which is where they would have to go, possibly. Okay? They already lost once there. They lost in overtime. Kansas City gave him multiple chances to win that game. He hadn't thrown an interception. Yeah, you know why? Because he throws it like 12 times a game. He's been throwing the ball a lot better. I'll give him credit. He has. But he barely throws it. How can you throw an interception when you barely throw it? Let's talk about Lamar Jackson's fumbles. God, he has a ton of them. He has a ton of them. And most of them are snap related. He gets a snap and he fumbles it. Or he goes to take off and he just fumbles it. Or he tries to pitch the ball on an option and he fumbles it. He fumbles a lot. He turns the ball over. By the way, that one loss to Kansas City, they were ahead almost the whole game. Almost the whole game. Whenever they're behind, It is very hard for them to catch up. Kansas City proved it. Why? Because they're a running-based team. They're a running-based team. When he is forced to throw the ball with the pressure that Kansas City brought to him at Arrowhead, it wasn't good. Lamar is the show, though. And that defense is really holding him up.
Here's Rams. Rams rested and ready. Todd Gurley didn't play last 2 weeks. First round bye. Last 2 weeks, 40 points. This is the way they kind of struggled in early December, and they said, you know what? We're going to rest some veterans. They got a scheduling break with Arizona and the Niner.
They rested one guy, Todd Gurley. One guy. They rested one guy. It was Todd Gurley. And it was a divisional game, so you could say that. They won 48-32.
Now they're going to reboot it.
Chief.
Looks like Todd Gurley won't have taken a meaningful snap in a month, and they'll be at home. I don't know. I know. I still don't love their defense, but there is one way to cure a beat-up, fatigued team. Rest, and Todd Gurley is going to be fresh, and they'll be at home. Rams rested and ready. Lions, Packers. Rodgers hurt again. Listen, he's 35. I'm not blaming him. He got a concussion. Green Bay, do yourself a favor. Draft offensive linemen and then re-sign them. They've let a lot of good offensive linemen go through the years. Aaron's not a big guy. Aaron's 6'2". He's 215. He's not a big guy. Okay, he's not one of these, Big Ben, you can pound on him. He's 35. Look at this thing, Joy. Last 2-3 years, we've got multiple injuries. You got to protect this dude.
Then
You
retire.
got to get a coach in there that does what the Colts did Andrew Luck. Beef up the O-line. Say, Aaron, 3 steps. Get it out.
Tom Brady's old, and he still gets hit. But you don't hear him bitching about it, and you don't hear him getting hurt all the time. Aaron Rodgers gets hurt every time he gets touched. It's time to retire.
Falcons, Bucks. Walk the plank. Dirk
We're just
going
gonna
to
skip this one.
Nobody knows the future. If you can't get it right and you keep running through GMs and coaches and quarterbacks, feel dysfunctional to me. Cowboys, Giants. Hooray for Dak. 4 touchdowns in a meaningless game. I wouldn't have played him. I got to be honest with you. I think they took some unnecessary risks. But I think Dallas feels like
I agree.
backup against backup. Kyle Allen faced Teddy Bridgewater. I don't know what I'm supposed to take from that game at all. Jaguars, Texans, weakest playoff team. Listen.
I'm just going to stop that right there. The weakest playoff team. They went to Foxborough and lost by 7 this year. Look, DeAndre Hopkins went all year 125 catches, 0 drops. The Texans aren't a joke. This is a divisional game. If you can beat a team 20-3 in your division, that's a big win. That is a big win. Divisional games are tough. We beat Oakland by 7 the first meeting. We skunked them 35-3 this past week. Should have been 42-3. Divisional games are hard. And you know what pisses me off about this? He calls this the weakest playoff team. Andrew Luck played the Jaguars and lost 0-6. And you're going to call the Houston Texans the worst playoff team? Are you serious? You got a team that hadn't won in 20 years, especially at home. Won 1 playoff game in between them against a terrible Houston team in 2013. And you're going to call them the weakest link? They got a decent defense. They play fast. Sure, they lost to the Colts twice by 3, but this is the playoffs. This is the playoffs. They're not going to play like they did then. They're not. And the Jaguars had Andrew Luck by the ass. He threw 2 interceptions that game, no touchdowns. He couldn't do shit against Jacksonville. Houston's going to play him tough if they do play. Oh yeah, well they are playing. Yeah, they're playing in Houston. We're weakest playoff team, really? Watson, way more dynamic than Andrew Luck. Maybe not statistically, but on the field, yes. Got way more weapons than Andrew Luck. Got a better running game than Andrew Luck. Maybe not in the past few weeks. Marlon Mack kind of turned it up. Defense, their defense plays fast. Houston's defense plays fast. No, not the weakest link.
Texans.
But he's not going to mention the Jaguars shit when Andrew Luck got skunked out by the Jaguars. He's not going to mention that.
Have the NFL's worst pass defense in
Get ready to
December.
get your mind blown.
They allowed over 300 yards a game, and I don't like their offensive line. You know, teams are funny. New England's now playing better late. Kansas City was great early. About a month ago, I really liked Houston, and today, I don't really like Houston. I don't think you can go into the playoffs with a worst offensive line easily and come out of it. I don't like where Houston's at right now. Colts, Titans, good luck, AFC. They've won 9 of 10. Andrew Luck's contract now for the next 3 years is good. They've got 9 draft picks. Joy, they've got over $100 million of cap space.
Sounds to me like he's already preparing for the offseason because that's probably where they're going to go.
You got the dysfunctional Jaguars in the division.
Who, by the way, beat the Colts 6-0. Hold on. Let's listen to him say that again.
Joy, they've got over $100 million of cap space. You got the dysfunctional Jaguars in the division.
Who beat the Colts 6-0, which was the Colts' one loss in the past 10 games or whatever the hell he's talking about.
You've got the Titans. They don't know what they're doing with Marcus Mariota.
Who, by the way, it's a divisional game, hung in with Andrew Luck for damn near 4 quarters until Blaine Gabbert threw an interception. If Blaine Gabbert didn't throw that interception, he was going back down the field and he probably would have scored again and tied the game.
Going forward, I'll say it again. The Colts, starting next year, I also think they have the best young GM in the sport, Chris Ballard. If
True.
they do half as well in the draft as they've done the last 2 years, you're looking at the beginning of an 8 to 10 year dynasty with the Colts. Bengals, Steelers.
Where do I start with this one? AFC, watch out, huh? First of all, they got to play a divisional game. They got to play a Texans team that's being underrated now. They got a Texans team that's sitting there getting shit on because the Colts beat them by 3 points both times this year. It's a divisional game. It's going to be a dogfight, and it's in Houston. Look, the Colts have been impressive in the past 10 games. I'll give them that. I'll give them that. They have. Besides that egg that they laid against Jacksonville, 6-0, they've been decent. 8 to 10 year dynasty. Andrew Luck's lucky he's playing again. Andrew Luck has not played against a fast defense. He hasn't. This guy hasn't been getting pass rushed at all in the past weeks. And the only team that did was Tennessee the other night, and they ate his ass up. You know, in my opinion, he probably woke up the next morning and looked at that game and went, "Oh man, the Colts blew him out." No, they didn't. They didn't at all. I watched that whole game. You know what I saw? Andrew Luck gets it to midfield. Well, they're punting. Andrew Luck gets it to midfield. Well, they're punting. Playoff teams aren't going to put up with that shit. They're going to capitalize on that. The Colts defense, they might be fast, but they had problems with Blaine Gabbert, of all people. They shut him down the whole first half. Well, most of the way the first half. And then Blaine Gabbert comes out the second half and starts coming back on him. He made one stupid pass that cost him the entire game. One stupid pass. Andrew Luck got ate up by pass pressure. And this team isn't even a good pass rushing team. Ate him up. What do you think the Texans are going to do to him? They rush better than the Titans. He fumbled a lot. Andrew Luck fumbled a lot the other night. Last night. I want to say he fumbled somewhere in the ballpark of 2 to 4 times, something like that. I think he even threw a pick. This is not the best team in the playoffs. not the best team in the playoffs. Let me tell you something. Baltimore, really great football team until they're forced to pass. Then they're one-dimensional. That's how you beat them. The Colts, rush Andrew Luck. You got him beat. He is a panic passer when he is pressured. He's like a Cam Newton. His stats are impressive. I think it's like 38 touchdown passes on the year or something like that, and 13 interceptions. Yeah, they're good. But those first 4 or 5 games that Andrew Luck played and played like complete shit when they were 1-5, the first 6 games. This guy don't want to talk about that. Why? Because they had tough-ass football teams. They had tough football teams that rushed Andrew Luck, and he made stupid mistakes. New England ate his damn lunch. I think it was 38-24, and that was at Foxborough. He got pounded by New England. Pounded. They rushed the dog crap out of him. Kansas City, great pass rush this year. The rest of the defense is terrible. I'll admit that. But their pass rush has been devastating over the past weeks, especially at home. Andrew Luck goes to Arrowhead. Kansas City's pass rush will tear his ass apart unless Bob Sutton changes the game plan. They will tear him up. Andrew Luck, good, not under pressure. He's not good under pressure. Everybody's going to look back at Jacksonville and see what they did and see how they pressured him, and that's going to be the end of it. New England, how do you beat them? Get them to play on the road? That's the best I can tell you. And they're the number 2 seed. Unless Kansas City wins this first game, they'll have home field advantage. And they're a deadly-ass football team at home in the playoffs, especially in the playoffs. They're 8-0 at home this year. Do I see them losing a single playoff game or a single game this season at home? If Kansas City loses, I think Kansas City's got a good chance to beat them if they come to Arrowhead. I'll admit it. Everything's... Especially if they win that first playoff game. Because it's probably going to be a tougher road team than New England, honestly. If Kansas City gets beat, they aren't losing, dude. They're going to the Super Bowl. I tell you that right now, hands down. They are going to the Super Bowl. The Chargers, rush Phillip Rivers. You rush Phillip Rivers, he's done. Kansas City, bull rushed him for about 3 quarters. Let off the gas. What did he do? He came back. Andrew Luck, Phillip Rivers, exactly the same. Got pretty good stats. You rush them, they suck. They suck bad. They make stupid decisions. They turn the ball over. Kansas City, you just got to keep pounding their defense. That's how you beat them. But New England at home, unstoppable. It won't happen.
That's the Pits. How can you tie for first in
Talking
sacks,
about the Steelers.
second in pass offense, 6th in total defense, and not make the playoffs? I don't even know how that's possible. If you just... How do you have that many they have Pro Bowlers on the O-line, quarterback, receiving court. They draft incredibly well. They went, forget Le'Veon Bell, James Conner, they went to a 3rd running back this year, and he could play. And they won yesterday. And for the record, it was so typical. Last night, they needed a tie by the Colts and Titans to make the playoffs. And I'm just trying to think of teams that have been this talented and not made the playoffs. And it is a really short list. I don't think, Peter King was on earlier. Peter King said, hey, only thing you can do, stay the course. You got the coach, you got the quarterback. I do think their secondary needs help, but I can't, top of my head, I can't remember a team with this many elite players, with that dysfunctional a division this year, 2 rookies and Jeff Driscoll, and you couldn't make the playoffs. Weird. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Okay, that's the video.
Foles, the starter. So South.
The Vikings. I think the Vikings are more loaded than the Steelers. Maybe not defensively, but offensively, yes. The Vikings didn't make the playoffs. I agree with everything he said about Pittsburgh. Just real quick here. just real quick here, we're going to pull up stats of last night's game from Andrew Luck, just to make things clear. Let's see. Tennessee, he played relatively decent. 285 yards, 3 touchdowns, and INT. Passer rating was 109.8. He played good. He finished the season with 39 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. If you go back and watch that entire game, he had problems. He threw 3 touchdowns, yes. Late in the game, he had problems. He had a pretty decent year, I'll give him that, for a shitty start that he had. But in the last few games, he has really struggled. Tennessee was the one game where he honestly didn't struggle. So that's about it for this video. There was another one that was really long, but I enjoyed it. If you want to, leave your comments. But that's that. This team being the best team in the playoffs, not just no, but hell no. They definitely are not. They just have not played a team in the past weeks that have really just rushed them. The Cowboys failed to get rush on them. That's a team that probably could have beat them but didn't. But they still donut hold them twice. Just the Jaguars rushed the shit out of him. 0 for 1. I wouldn't be surprised if they got beat in Houston. So that's about it for this video. Thanks for watching.